this particular restorative practice, our focus will be doing some poses and the use of some props for overall hormone balancing. What are some different ways to get our endocrine system to find that state of the middle ground, that place on the teeter-totter where we're steady? And according to the principles of Ayurveda, our yoga practice can be something that helps us maintain that state of balance amidst the constant up and constant down that is the nature of the life that we live. So we'll use a few different props for this practice: a block, a blanket, a bolster, and you can also improvise, whether it is a few phone books, towels, blankets, pillows, and so on. So let's start out with our block, and we'll place it kind of in the center of the mat, in the shorter end of the mat. We're setting up for downward facing dog, and we'll be using the block for support underneath our forehead. Placing the hands, sliding the shoulders away from the ears, allowing our body to make the shape of downward facing dog. Now, depending on this moment, we may have the block higher or lower. The beautiful thing about the block is it can change heights. We can bend the knees or we can straighten the legs. We may have the block in one position and we may need to adjust it to find the sweet spot. I like to have the block sitting sort of in the forehead in such a way that the neck can be long. And not that we're sinking into the block or compressing the neck, but that just there's a sense of barely touching around the hairline. And this helps us to give a slightly supported downward facing dog, which is a great inversion. Inversions can be helpful. You know, and it's said in the yoga tradition, it is said in the teachings of Ayurveda that they can help regulate blood pressure. And the teachings gives us information about inversions in our head lower than our heart that help to relax the nervous system. When our nervous system comes out of the stress response into the relaxation response, our endocrine system has the ability to balance itself. We're supporting the natural healing mechanisms of the body here. And just one more deep breath, inhaling. We're exhaling, taking our knees down. Knees wide, toes just barely touching. We're sliding the block out, sliding a blanket beneath us so that we can drape the body over the blanket, allowing the shoulders to rest on either side, turning our head to one side. One of the benefits of using support, bolsters, blocks, blankets, or any variation thereof in practice, is it allows us to feel comforted, supported. It allows us to experience a sense of safety. This too helps enhance, support, cultivate, facilitate the body's healing mechanisms. Forward folds, of which child's pose is one, help to calm the activity of the nervous system. Here our heart is literally supported. And then slowly on our next breath, we're inhaling, walking the hands in, slowly peeling ourselves off of the support, coming up. We're going to place a bolster out in front of us for our next pose. We're going to have our block kind of nearby to the side of the body. Coming back onto our hands and knees, sliding the knees beneath the hips. We'll just do a few cat and cow stretches. Feeling the lubrication of the spine. And then allowing ourselves to slide back into downward facing dog, pedaling out the feet for a moment. And then either through downward facing dog or coming back down on our hands and knees, we're setting up the right leg so it's forward at an angle, knee to the right foot a little bit to the left. We're sliding the left leg back. We're taking our block, if we need it, and placing it underneath either the left quadriceps, which is one way to use this for support in pigeon, or underneath the right glute. We're making sure that our knee feels supported, safe, and secure. There's no torquing, there's no pressure, there's no pain. And then we're laying over the bolster. The benefit of pigeon for the hormonal system, according to the teachings of yoga and Ayurveda, is that it helps support increased circulation through the pelvic region of the body. When we spend a long time sitting in chairs, we may feel a sense of congestion here. We may feel a sense of constriction here. As we're breathing, we're feeling a sense of how the breath nourishes this part of the inner body. Particularly for women, when we're considering the area within the ball of the pelvis, the ovaries, the uterus, this part of the body that needs a sense of love, nurturing, support. How do we give ourselves that love, that permission for ease through the breath, through the practice, through the simple shape? And on our next inhalation, we'll walk ourselves back up, unwinding either back to that tabletop position where we can engage in a few cat stretches, or if we'd like to slide back into downward facing dog and stretch out through the heels, that is another option. Whatever helps us to find that sense of returning to the center before we come into the other side where we draw the left leg forward. Setting up a block or even a folded up towel or a blanket underneath the left glute or underneath the right quadriceps. Draping the body forward. Another benefit of using the bolster from this perspective for balancing hormones is that our heart is also supported. We may sometimes see our heart as a pump, but when we really experience it, we know the heart is far more than a pump. It's also a connection between the physical body, the emotional body, the spiritual body. That which we can touch and that which is more subtle. So here the whole body is supported. Here the heart also supports the endocrine system. Here we can also, through our breath, nurture the thymus, which is a part of our lymphatic system. Near the heart supports our immune system. So we see so much in the teachings of yoga and Ayurveda that talk about the interconnected elements of the body. And when we think about balancing our hormonal system, we're thinking about it at multiple levels, multiple implications. multiple systems of support. Again, we are feeling here the breath, the prana, the life force, filling the space of the pelvic bowl, the organs of the endocrine system that reside here. Feeling a greater sense of being bathed in space, bathed in prana, bathed in breath. On our next inhalation, we're again walking the hands in, back to cat stretch or downward facing dog. Noticing that after spending some time in the restorative pose, we may feel a greater sense of circulation in the pelvic bowl. We may feel a greater experience connecting us with this part of the body. And then as we take our knees down, we're setting the bolster off to the side, having our block somewhere we can easily reach it, and coming onto our backs. Knees bent, soles of the feet making a connection with the mat. In pigeon pose, we worked with this bowl of the pelvis in a forward fold and a hip opener. And we're going to use a bridge supported with a block for working with the same part of the body, particularly some of the seat of our endocrine system, but in a different shape, with a different sense of support. As we press down through the feet, we're lifting the hips, and we're taking the block and sliding it under the shelf of the sacrum, allowing the body to drop down so that we feel held. It's almost like this part of the body is being held in a very nurturing set of hands. And to enhance that effect, we're taking the palms of the hands and rubbing them together. Palming is a practice used in the traditions, the interwoven traditions of yoga and Ayurveda. And we can use this on many parts of our body. It's the same tradition of, it's the same sort of concept that many traditions of healing, Reiki, reconnective healing, hands-on healing, draw upon. And we're taking our hands to this area around the navel. Palms of the hands on either side. Thumbs just gently touching. Fingers pointing down to the base of the pelvis. And this mudra, this shape of the hands of the downward pointing triangle, it is also said in the tradition, helps to support energetically this part of the body. This central core, not just core meaning the musculature of the abdominal region, but the core being the deep heart of connecting to the hormones of being a woman. And we're feeling the breath move beneath our hands. And as our hands place a sense of intention as well as attention on this area of the body, that too energetically helps to cultivate a sense of balance. Another benefit of this pose energetically for the hormonal system is there's a sense here of opening up, creating space, decompressing the area around the adrenals. The adrenals are organs of the endocrine system that sit above the kidneys. And their responsibilities include aiding in the management of our blood pressure, as well as modulating the effect of our stress hormones, in addition to being connected to the endocrine system located within our pelvis. Post-menopause, more estrogen is actually produced in the adrenals than in the ovaries. All too often we may slouch, compress, the low back, the home of the adrenals. So through this pose, this practice, we also create space here in the back of the body as well as the front. We can stay here for another couple of breaths, or if we want to experiment a little bit more with the inversion, we can take one leg up and the other leg up for a supported version of shoulder stand. Both shoulder stand and bridge are also said within the yoga tradition to help enhance or balance or cultivate a sense of the body's ability to regulate its own balance within the thyroid, which is the master gland of the endocrine system. So we're only keeping the legs up if we can do so with a sense of ease. And then we're slowly bringing one foot down and the other foot down. Pressing down to the soles of the feet, lifting the hips. And then sliding our bolster, this time underneath the knees. Do a short shavasana just to smooth out this brief but sweet practice. We can also take our blanket for a little extra nurturing or support around the pelvic region. You can place the blanket here. According to Ayurveda, when we feel weight, we feel warmth, it helps calm the airy vata dosha. So we feel less anxious, more grounded within our body. And then slowly we're taking one foot to the bolster, the other foot to the bolster, rolling onto our right side. Using our hands to press ourselves up. Finding a comfortable seat, and with the palms of our hands on our heart, using Om, the sound, to help us maintain this center. Everything humming together. Om. Namaste.